the list. My mother had a pen pound. On Saturdays.
This is right. I
don't think so.
Morning, folks. I'm Rob Markley with the ITD department, and thanks for your flexibility and being willing to meet in this room. It's going to be a little different than what we usually do. So just want to talk to you real quickly about how the audio works. So the audio is actually coming from the front of the room, and it's always on. So that's different than what we have in the board chambers where you can mute yourself. So assume during the entire meeting, if you're saying something, it's going to be picked up and broadcast out to the public. So better, safe than sorry in that regard. So there's no request to speak. If we have comments from the public, they can use the podium and just speak freely. Try to use your presentation voice as if you're talking on the other side of the room, be helpful for the stream, but otherwise we'll be able to pick up everything that's going on for you. And I'll be here if there's any questions about the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we live?
You're on Saturday.
Yes, we are. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to make some announcements. Supervisor Arnold is not present due to commitments previously made before today's special meeting was scheduled. Anyone who would like to speak must fill out a speaker form. See clerk for the form. Anything presented to the board must be turned into the clerk for the record. And now we will stand for a pledge of allegiance, please. Starting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so I will start by asking the clerk to introduce the item for today's special meeting, please.
Item number 1, a request to consider annual cannabis business tax rate for fiscal year 2024-25, and if necessary, adopt the proposed resolution related to the cannabis business tax rate.
All right.
Thank you. And we're going to start with Auditor, Controller, Treasurer, Tax Collector, Public Administrator Office.
That's right. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I am Justin Cooley from, I'll just say ACTTCPA. And we're here in the tax collector capacity today. Last week, your board requested we come back with an item to consider the cannabis business tax rate. Just a brief history. In 2018, the voters approved the tax on cannabis businesses, and it set up a system where it started at 4%. And then starting in July 2020, automatically increased by 2% up to a maximum of 10%. Unless your board takes action to hold it or reduce the amount. If you'll see the chart on page 3 of the staff report, that is a fiscal year history tax rate and what actions, if any, your board took. Last year, your board actually voted to reduce the tax rate. It was scheduled to go to 10% from 8%. Your board, in 2 separate actions, stopped the automatic increase and then lowered it to 6%. There are 2 previous occasions where your board acted to hold the rate, and those are shown in the notes column of that table. The measure approved by the voters does give your board the authority to hold the rate or to lower it within that 4 to 10% range. If your board does not take any action today, this tax rate is scheduled to increase to 8% on July 1st for the next fiscal year. One thing to note, if you look at the chart, the tax revenue actually increased in the 6% year over the 8% year. And to make the math a little easier to keep in your head, we estimate that every 1% change in the tax rate is about $125,000 in tax revenue for the upcoming year. So for example, if you were to let it increase to 8%, we estimate the tax revenue to be about $1 million. And if you were to hold it at 6%, that would drop the estimate to $750,000. And that concludes my very short presentation. And I'm available for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Questions, board? Okay, then we'll go to public comment. Script here again. Okay, so we don't have any questions, so we're going to open public comment. And I will start with Michael Joseph, please.
How many time per minute?
He's hollering. Put on the narrated Oscar music. Hello supervisors, again, staff and taxes and everybody. I don't really want to sit and complain and tell you that, yeah, if it goes to 8, we're gonna have to shut our doors. If it goes to 10, we're definitely leaving the county. I'd like to try to look at it with a more proactive comment section of, at 6%, we were able to hire 2 more people. We have intention of hiring 3 more. With the money that we're generating, that 2% difference is huge for us. That's all we make. So we can spread that around, make things longer lasting, and have a business plan if we could all settle on, say, 6%. Last year, when we had this conversation in the other room, it was brought up that maybe it'd be a good idea to go to 4 at this point. So it would balance out with the 6% and 4%, so we regain what we lost under the 8%. Personally, I don't feel that necessary. Of course, I would love it to be at 4 and fixed for 5, 10 years so we can actually make a business model, talk to banks, get things moving. But even at 6%, we're able to compete with other counties in the state. At 8%, we're so above it, we're all out. I know we have about 10 more people that left this town or this county that at 6 to 4, and if it was firm, I think they'd come back. Because what we really need to do is generate more money by getting more businesses going and letting us, those of us that exist, to generate more income as well. And you might get that extra 200 grand this year, but I know it won't be available past that. So it'd be a little short-sighted. We don't mind paying reasonable taxes. We want to, with the new rescheduling coming on board that I'm sure you guys are very aware of. If it comes to fruition, if they do it the way the state is telling me they're going to do it, we will start getting into that ag bracket. That's where we should be. We are an ag commodity driven industry. That's what we are. I have cattle. It's the same business, except I have to have cameras and sheriffs, which I understand. I'm not against, but we should be kind of treated the same. It isn't the gold rush people thought. It's just another business. There's mom and pop ones, and there's big ones and small ones. And our county is kind of going down the drain on this. And you can see there's not a lot of us here that still exist. We want to exist. We want our, at least myself, I want my kids to have a company they can keep pushing on with. We can't do it on just cattle, so this has been a good thing for us. And I hope you guys really think about the long-term vision and what we can accomplish if we all work together. So please stay at 6, 8, we'll gotta be the nail.
Thank you.
Sorry if I ran over.
It's very good. Sean Bean. Just right.
Board of Soups. I actually I think we need a little clarification because we said that when the 6th year that we actually collected more taxes than the 8th year. Should we dive into that a little more and see if we had more licenses that year or what that cause was? Because when we looked at, you said, okay, for every 10%, it was maybe like $100,000, I don't remember exactly. But so we go up to 8. How are we expected to collect more when in the 6th year we actually collected more? Like that's the circle that I'm trying to connect here. If we collect more at 6 than we do at 8, how are we expecting a drop when how are we expecting an increase when we go to 8 and not a drop? We can get to that. Actually, my main point is I think there should be more levers to pull to generate revenue from this industry rather than just increase the tax rate. That seems like the simplest and oh yeah, let's just increase the tax rate, we'll collect more. But maybe things like, sorry to be a broken record and say this every single time, walk-up storefronts. One of the issues we all know about is the current retail setup for delivery. All of the outside of the unincorporated county taxes, CBT, go to those cities rather than maintaining the county. Just a few walk-ups would absolutely balance the budget. And you guys should take a look, call the city of SLO, ask what Megan's pays per year in business tax, and you're gonna be blown away by the number, because every single sale is paid to that jurisdiction. So I just think we need to look at some more levers to pull besides just increasing the tax rate. And if it really went down, or really we collected more at 6%, I don't see how we're going to collect more at 8%. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, Austin Canella.
Good morning, members of the board. Thank you for calling this special meeting. I think it definitely deserves attention. We've all been here, throughout this process and have, voiced our concerns about the raising tax rate. And again, we're here to ask you to hold. In my opinion, I think the tax rate should be lowered. You look at what's going on throughout the rest of the state. Recently, at least 14 cities and counties have lowered their tax rates. Counties that have done that recently are Calaveras County, Humboldt County completely suspended their tax 100%. Mendocino County reduced it from 2.5% to 1.25% for the last 2 years. If you look at Santa Barbara County, they just had this issue come up as well. They're exploring possibly a hybrid model, which would allow cultivators to maybe pay by the square foot versus a gross receipts, and whichever one was more, the cultivator would have to pay, but it at least gives some option to maybe some of the smaller cultivators or some of the, whichever. There was at least a different way to skin that up. Santa Barbara County also held their tax increase from increasing and kept it at 4%. So it's a very competitive commodity market, as was mentioned earlier. And so when you, have a tax rate that could be essentially double of a neighboring county, it makes it really hard on the cultivators here to compete. But I think we really just need to look at, the larger issue if we're trying to balance the budget. I think part of the issue is that we have this very large enforcement arm and cannabis program in this county that's very expensive to upkeep with, dedicated staff for all the different arms of the government within the sheriff's program. And that upkeep costs a lot, but there's only a handful of us here that are bearing the burden of that. And so this added tax rate added on to the increased sheriff fees to cover that program would basically be the death of this industry here in the county. So another option is to onboard retail. I think that's the real solution here. Cannabis taxes, can be spread out amongst the users, amongst the population as a whole. I have some figures over there of where we rank as far as spending. The average person in our county spends $54 on cannabis per capita, which is, we're in the top third of the counties in the state. So we do have a large consumption, per capita compared to other areas in the state. So I think there's a lot of missed revenues there. And Sean mentioned, right now those revenues are going to the cities. My dispensary here in the city of SLO, we pay close to $30,000 a month in city tax revenue. And then not just county taxes, there's excise tax on cannabis as well at 15%. And just to put that in perspective, the excise tax on a bottle of wine would be 4%, while the excise tax on an eighth of cannabis is $4.90. So there's already over 100 times the excise tax and other taxes on cannabis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to have Justin Carlson next.
Hello, board staff. Thanks for having this meeting again today. I'm going to keep it short. I only got a couple things to say. If you've noticed, it's the same 5 or 6 of us that are here every meeting and have been here every meeting for the last couple of years. And that's because it's the few of us that are still paying taxes here, because we have distribution here, we have cultivation here, we have processing here, the 5 of us. The other people that are operating in this county, the chances are is that they are distributing out of this county, they're processing out of this county. So SLO County isn't collecting that tax revenue from those producers. The people here, the locals that are here that want to live here and stay here, those are the people that are here advocating for lower taxes because we're actually paying those taxes. And so we've seen the taxes go down to 6% and we've seen tax revenue increase. So I would think that we would want to follow that trend, bring taxes down, more cultivators come in, more people want to be here, want to finish their product here, want to process their product here, more tax revenues are created. And I think we need to follow that trend, and that's the trend we've seen. And everybody here that's been here is really passionate and wants to work here. I'm local, I'm born here, I've been raised here, I went to high school in SLO, I went to college in SLO. This is where we want to be, this is where we want to stay, and I think increasing the tax rate is going to push us all out of here. And the last thing we want to do is leave our homes for our work. Thank you.
Thank you. Last, that's Justin, and then lastly, Stephen Herring.
You guys will have to bear with my voice. I've been in Fresno representing Supervisor Pashong's district in my son's all-star state tournament. So been using my coach's voice for the past 4 days. Thank you, Supervisor Ortiz-Leg, for calling a special meeting, and thank you, Supervisors Pashong and Gibson, for agreeing to come. It's no secret that the cannabis market has been devastated and the sale prices have been cut in half since 2018. And all of us did not see the market going this way. For one example, outdoor product now sells wholesale for $250 to $270 compared to $475 and $500 in 2018. I've run multiple businesses outside of the cannabis industry for 16 years, so I totally understand, supply and demand. But this drop in the market is taking everybody by surprise. Operators, counties, everybody, not just here in SLO, statewide, nationwide. Going to 8% will definitely tax multiple businesses out of existence, especially the farms. Just some rough math. 8% gross receipts equates to roughly 12 to 14% of the net. There's not enough profit left over to make it worth risking $750,000 to make it through one cultivation season to make maybe 8 to 10% net profit on what's left over. I encourage the board to vote unanimously, not to only freeze it at 6% for a year, but to leave it at 6% so we can move forward with confidence and be able to have clean projections moving forward. As the only processing, the owner of the only processing facility in SLO County, I talked to all the local farms. They're all saying the same thing. These farms will be faced with a tough decision, but an obvious one if it goes up to 8%. Options include shuttering their farms and taking their business to other counties. My cannabis company is building out a facility in Monterey County as we speak, where the tax rate is currently at 2% gross receipt sales tax. It's a simple question for the county, I think, at this point. Would you rather have 6% of something or 8% of nothing when these businesses are forced to shut their doors and go elsewhere? I encourage the board to allow us operators that have spent 6 years jumping through the county hoops a chance to pay our fair share of taxes here in SLO County. Allow more cannabis businesses to open, push for more good projects to get operational, be more business friendly, and leave the tax rate at 6% so that we can continue to pay our taxes here in SLO County where we all live and raise our families. Please meet with the industry stakeholders like we have been talking about for years. Let's form a committee and let's work together to come up with some ideas to ensure that us, the operators, are doing our part to help make this program a success. Thank you for your time and willingness to make this right.
Thank you. And last is Murray Powell.
Or start, so, did you guys get that, document that
Yes.
since it can't be put up on the screen here, so I hope you can take a look at this. So anyway, I'm here to oppose this, taxpayer funded, subsidy to this failing industry. I should say it used to be failing industry. If you look at, this table, you'll notice in the last column, percentages. And for the last 3 years, what this is the increase in reported cannabis tax revenue each year. So for example, in 2022, 2023, there was a 29% increase. In 23, 24, there's two lines there because 24 does not include June because it hasn't been reported yet. So I estimated based on an average of the last 3 months and added that, basically the total increase for this fiscal year in tax and revenue reported by the pot industry is about up 60%. 60%. And you guys are sitting here thinking that we need to subsidize an industry because from what I just heard from all these folks, you're all going broke. And I also get information on the increases or decreases in license projects in the county. And there's been basically, and Mr. Cooley can speak to this, there's been no real change in licensed pot operations in our county during the past year. So this increase is not based on like increased projects or increased operators. This is because they're coming back and starting to recover greatly from their earlier losses because of the market downturn. So why you guys would be here today to even think about subsidizing again with our money is absolutely outrageous. So I think you guys need to look at this. And also I want to mention that actually the losses that have been calculated are in the second to last column are based on the difference between the taxpayer approved tax program, which Mr. Cooley mentioned, which was an increase of 2% a year, and what the boss has done 3 times now, 3 times.
Thank you, Mr. Powell.
Deferring the taxpayers' wishes.
Okay, any further public comment? I see none. I'm going to close public comment and come back to the board for comments and deliberations.
I have a question.
Yes, some questions.
Mr. Powell said that we're subsidizing the industry. When we first started this discussion, I think a pound of cannabis was something like $800. We just heard from a number of industry people that it's between $250 and let's say $300. So are we subsidizing? Because I know we've had the same, 12 to 20 acres of cannabis in the county for the last 5 years. We have people going through the system to add into it. Now, Santa Barbara County is 1,500 acres, so they went all out. But are we subsidizing the industry, like Mr. Powell said?
Justin Cooley, ACTTCPA. The unsatisfying answer is it depends on how you look at it. So if you're talking about cost recovery fees versus expenses, then those are not equal yet. But if you look at cost recovery plus taxes, we're right around breaking right now over the life of the program.
Okay. So we're pretty close to breaking even. And
yeah,
when you say that, we're not millions of dollars off. It's pretty
correct. The life of the cannabis tax program, you can see on that chart on page 3, we've now brought in a little over 2.5 million. Now, just to be pedantic for a moment, this is a general tax and it is able to be budgeted at your board's discretion. Now, what the voters did approve, though, was there was some intention that it would be related to the impacts of the cannabis industry. So I think it's fair to consider it all together.
Thank you.
And just right now, what we're being asked today, because on July 1st, the tax would go from 6% to 8%. So we would, for a year, stop it to going 8%. That's what we're being asked to, that's what we're talking about doing today.
That is the draft ordinance resolution, that is in the packet. And that is similar to what I think I heard the board discuss last week. Your board does have the ability to not act at all, let it go to 8, hold it at 6, or even by other resolution lower it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Supervisor
I
Gibson?
agree. It's not a subsidy to the industry. This is taking taking part of their revenue to fund the perceived impacts. My colleagues were, Paul, I imagine that when we set the tax rate, that was our goal. We were looking to get rich off of the cannabis industry. We wanted to make sure that we covered our expenses. And so we're caught in a tricky bind here. This is all about the revenue side. You talk about our expense side, that's not really being considered here. And I think there's certainly a fair argument that if we did let this tax rate go up, which it does seem to be on the higher end as it stands right now, to the extent that certain businesses shutter, I think we then enable black market. Reading the recent press on that, there's still considerable black market, and that's where our expenses, a large amount of our expenses go. And so I was pleased to hear that in the whole, we're around break even. That's pretty much where we expect it to be. So I'm supporting 6%.
Thank you, Supervisor Gibson. Okay, I'll make my comments. First, I was hoping that, you know, what we did last year was try to start to modernize and really take the feedback that we got from the industry. I will note that on July 13th, our board will finally have those amendments come forth that will include modifying the regulations pertaining to expiration of cannabis cultivation, hours of operation for non-storefront retail dispensaries, and abatement procedures and cost recovery related to unpermitted cannabis activities. So, you know, slowly but surely, we're getting to giving you more tools, more things to work with. I do think it's going to be important for us, though, now with our new CAO in place, to have a roundtable to be able to discuss some of the things like the processing, some of the other pieces to this puzzle. We never wanted, and we've said this every time, we never wanted to be Santa Barbara, and we don't want to be Santa Barbara. No offense, Santa Barbara. We love you in many other ways, but we want to have a moderate approach to this, and one that works in conjunction with the sheriff's office to demonstrate that we can do both things in keeping with the law. And I would like to see this stay because I want these guys to continue to be able to grow their business and flourish here. But, you know, eventually when we can get some recovery, we can look at all sorts of things. But, you know, I also want some of the revenue eventually to go to education and to be able to help in addressing information regarding, you know, strength of cannabis for children and all those kinds of things that are out there that are really important to be sharing. So with that, you know, I think that I too would like to hold it at 6%. And I'm happy to make a motion to do just that.
Second.
Okay. Any further conversation? So the recommendation is consider the annual cannabis tax rate for fiscal year 24-25 and adopt the proposed resolution to maintain the tax rate at 6% of gross receipts for the next fiscal year. Roll call.
Vice Chairperson Ortiz-Lay,
Yes.
Supervisor Gibson.
Yes.
And Supervisor Michelle.
Yes.
With that, I just want to say thank you to everybody for making this social meeting, to my colleagues for taking time as we were on break this month, to the staff for being here, and also to everybody that came to speak. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, July 9th at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
No more spending.